being in Memphis on a Thursday.
And just do Memphis. Just do everybody a favor and move that team to Nashville. There's no...
The hate flying into Memphis, bro.
41 years old. There's two cities I do not like playing in right now. Milwaukee and that's Memphis.
LeBron James is 41 and apparently the unofficial commissioner of vibes. And Draymond Green backed him up, said the Grizzlies should just pack up and move to Nashville, said Memphis doesn't even have good hotels. And with the NBA officially voting to explore expansion into Seattle and Las Vegas, suddenly everybody's asking the same question. Does Memphis even deserve an NBA team? But before we debate whether the Grizzlies should leave Memphis, let's talk about how Memphis got them in the first place. Because this isn't a story about basketball, this is a story about greed, broken promises, rigged rules, and one city that fought for something another city lost. The spring of 1994 was electric in Vancouver. The Canucks were on a magical Stanley Cup run, and a brand new arena was going up downtown. And the man behind it all, Canucks owner Arthur Griffiths, had a vision that went beyond hockey. Griffiths wanted to bring the NBA to Vancouver, and the NBA was listening. The league had tested Canadian waters with preseason games at Toronto's Sky Dome between 1989 and 1992. Every game drew 25,000 fans. Commissioner David Stern saw dollar signs, 2 new franchises, 2 new markets, Toronto and Vancouver, the Canadian expansion. Vancouver got preliminary approval in February 1994, full approval in April. Griffiths wrote a $125 million check for the expansion fee. He was building a GM place out of his own pocket. He was all in. But there was a catch. The NBA required Vancouver to sell 12,500 season tickets with 50% payment upfront. Before January 1st, 1995, by December 21st, they'd only sold 10,000. The franchise was 10 days away from never existing, and then a pharmacy chain saved professional basketball in Canada. Shoppers Drug Mart bought the remaining 2,500 tickets. They did the exact same thing in Toronto for the Raptors. 2 NBA franchises, both saved by a drugstore. You can't make this stuff up. But behind the scenes, Griffiths was already drowning. The arena construction had gone over budget, the expansion fees had emptied his pockets, and just 6 months before the Grizzlies even played their first NBA game, Griffiths was forced to sell the majority of his company to Seattle billionaire John McCaw Jr. The dream was already slipping away, and the Grizzlies hadn't even tipped off yet. Now, here's where the NBA basically set Vancouver up to fail. The expansion rules for the Grizzlies and Raptors were the most restrictive in league history. Rule number 1. Neither team could pick in the top 5 or their first draft. Rule number 2. Even if they won the lottery, they couldn't get the number 1 pick for their first 3 seasons. Rule number 3. They couldn't use their full salary cap for the first 2 years. Arthur Griffiths later said the other owners pushed for these restrictions because they were afraid that the expansion teams might get lucky in the lottery and become competitive too fast. Forced to pick 6th, Vancouver drafted Brian Reeves, Big Country, a 7-foot center out of Oklahoma State. He led the Cowboys to the Final Four, seemed like a solid pick, and then the Grizzlies gave him a 6-year, $65 million extension. Reeves never became an all-star. His scoring dropped every year after that contract. He was out of the league by 2001. That one deal destroyed their salary cap flexibility for half a decade. And the draft misses kept piling up. In '96, they took Sharif Abdul-Rahim 3rd overall, a genuinely good player, 21 points a game for 5 years, but Kobe Bryant was still on the board. Steve Nash, the kid from Victoria, British Columbia, the local hero, went 15 to Phoenix. Vancouver fans were crushed. In '97, with the 4th pick, GM Stu Jackson took Antonio Daniels, averaged 7.8 points, gone after 1 season. Tracy McGrady went 9th. In '98, they finally got it right with Mike Bibby, solid, no complaints. But one good pick in 4 years doesn't save a franchise. And then came the Steve Francis disaster, 1999. The Grizzlies had their 2nd pick. Francis was the consensus choice. There was just one problem. He didn't want to play in Vancouver. He said it publicly before the draft. He said it after the draft. He never budged. The Grizzlies traded him to Houston, and the message was sent to every player in the league. Vancouver is a place you avoid. High taxes, weak Canadian dollar, no endorsement deals, extra travel. That Steve Francis moment cemented it. 6 seasons, 6 last place finishes, a combined record of 101 wins and 259 losses. The best season? 33 wins. The franchise never sniffed the playoffs, not once. Off the court, the ownership carousel was spinning. Macau had bought Griffiths out completely by November 1996. He said he was committed to keeping the team in Vancouver, but by 1999, Macau was looking for an exit. First, he negotiated with Dennis Washington, a Vancouver-based businessman who wanted to buy 50% and keep the team local. But Macau used Washington's bid to leverage a higher price from Bill Lowry, who offered $148 million for Grizzlies, plus a $52 million bonus if the team relocated to his hometown of St. Louis. $52 million, a relocation bounty built into the sales contract. Think about what that means. The team was worth more dead in Vancouver than alive. The NBA actually blocked the Lowry deal, but the damage was done. The next buyer was Michael Heisley. Michael Heisley, a Chicago businessman who paid $160 million and promised to keep the team in Vancouver. He didn't. The 2000-2001 season was a disaster. The team's president claimed they were losing $40 million a year. The Canadian dollar was weak. Attendance had dropped below 14,000. The 1998 lockout had killed whatever momentum they built. Arthur Griffiths later accused Heisley of sabotage. He said Heisley intentionally ran the franchise into the ground, slashed marketing, alienated sponsors, created a narrative that basketball couldn't work in Vancouver. In February 2001, Heisley went on a road trip, not a basketball road trip, a real estate road trip, visiting America cities that wanted the Grizzlies. Louisville came in strong, offering a build at $200 million arena. Tricon Global, the company that owned KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell, offered $5 million a year for 20 years in naming rights. But Memphis had something Louisville didn't: Pitt Hyde. J.R. Pitt Hyde III, founder of AutoZone, one of the most powerful businessmen in Memphis. Hyde promised the boy 50% of the team. FedEx backed the construction of a brand new $250 million arena. Memphis already had the Pyramid Arena as a temporary home. The city rolled out the red carpet. Meanwhile, in Vancouver, the Save the Grizzlies campaign was fighting for survival. Peter Ufford led a group trying to find local investors. They had a plan to create public ownership entity, but Heisley's timeline was too fast. The March 26th deadline hit, and Heisley chose Memphis. July 3, 2001, the NBA Board of Governors unanimously approved the relocation, the first franchise move since the Kings left Kansas City for Sacramento in 1985. Just like that, Vancouver's NBA experiment was over. 6 seasons, 0 playoff appearances, 101 wins. Before the move was even official, the Grizzlies traded away their 2 best players. Sharif Abdul-Rahim went to Atlanta, Mike Bibby went to Sacramento. In return, Memphis got a draft pick that became Pau Gasol, the single best transaction in franchise history. The Grizzlies played in the pyramid from 2001 to 2004. They were still bad, but when FedEx Forum opened and Jerry West arrived as general manager, everything changed. West won Executive of the Year in 2004. He rebuilt the roster. He built the foundation for what Memphis basketball would become. The grit and grind era: Zach Randolph, Tony Allen, Marc Gasol, Mike Conley, the 2011 first-round upset of the #1 seed San Antonio Spurs as the 8th seed, the 2013 Western Conference Finals. Memphis became one of the most physical, most beloved, most identity-driven teams in the NBA. The city didn't just adopt Grizzlies, they made them their own. Now here we are, 25 years later, the NBA just voted to explore expansion into Seattle and Las Vegas. 2 new Western Conference teams means 1 current team has to move east. Memphis New Orleans, and Minnesota are the candidates for realignment. Memphis has the worst attendance in the NBA. Their arena lease expires in 2029. LeBron wants them in Nashville. Draymond wants them in Nashville. The expansion fees are expected to hit $7 to $10 billion per franchise, and some executives are quietly wondering, would it be cheaper to just relocate a team instead of expanding? Commissioner Silver says relocation is not on the table, but in 2001, Michael Hazley said he was committed to Vancouver. People say a lot of things. Here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud. Memphis was the city that took another city's team. Vancouver fans woke up one morning and their franchise was gone. Now Memphis fans are hearing the same whispers from the same kind of people for the same kind of reasons. LeBron doesn't want to fly to Memphis on a Thursday night. In 2000, Steve Francis didn't want to fly Vancouver on any night. The excuses change, the pattern doesn't. Memphis has spent 25 years earning the right to call the Grizzlies their own. They built the arena, they showed up for the bad years, they created the grit and grind identity from nothing, and now a 41-year-old billionaire who played his first decade in Cleveland is telling them their city isn't good enough. The Grizzlies aren't going anywhere, but the fact that we are even having this conversation, that should tell you everything about how the NBA really works. Cities don't own teams, money does, and when the money decides to move, history has shown us exactly what happens.